Okay, you want to know about my stay at Devon's. My stay at Devon's. What can I tell you about my stay at Devon's? Well, because I knew who I was, the Messiah, and nobody else there knew who I was. I felt like I had to make appropriate actions to help them realize that I was a Messiah. So sometimes I would draw flyers, like they have a Xerox machine in the library there, so I would draw my seal, my 9-pointed star seal with my name and everything, and then I would they have a typewriter there so you can type. So I would type little letters with my seal on top, and I would pass it around to inmates, and I would pass it to guards even. One of them's, I think, the one that I passed to guard was one of them in which I passed to a guard was expressing that soon I will have authority over them, and I will have authority over the entire world. They just thought he's from N Unit. He's from N Unit. Everybody from N Unit is supposedly crazy. So just like, ha ha ha. And it's kind of nice. Let's see what else did I do. One time I was really mad at this one guard. She was a female guard that worked in the library, and she was very masculine. And let's just put it that way. But you can wear baseball caps in the yard there, but you can't wear them in the library. And obviously, I like to wear my hat as much as possible to cover my baldness, basically. So it's like, but sometimes you can, if they don't say anything, you can wear it in the library. But it's just like one time I was in the library, I had my hat on. And it was, hey, you, take off your hat. I'm like, okay, I take it. But I was like in the line to make copies of a flyer that I was passing out, and the flyer was my seal, and then below I said, "Cursed are the guards that oppose me in any form, way, shape, that abuse other inmates," because there's, guards abuse inmates. So I was pronouncing curses, and I put like a satanic star there too, just to intimidate them. So that one, she took it and she looked at it, and then she walked away with it to her supervisor, and she showed it to him. And he comes out there, "Christopher, come here!" So I went into his office. "What is this? You can't be doing this." I said, "I'm the second coming of Christ." Ha ha ha! And I'm like, "This is my freedom of speech. I can say that. I can say I'm the second coming of Christ." And he couldn't. At that point, he didn't do anything to me. It's just, and I'm just like, whatever. And he's like, "Get out of here." And I started walking away. And then I yelled I got back to the library, like he could still hear me, like the library. And his office is just like a short hallway connecting the two. And I said, "Asshole," like really loud, so everybody can hear me. And then he's like, "What did you call me?" And so he comes back out there. And I said, "I called you an asshole. You heard me." And I'm not proud of this, but I'm just telling you what was happening. I mean, I was obviously looking back, I wouldn't do those things again, but it's kind of like I had to break free from this authoritative hurdle that was challenging me in front of me. So he's like, "You stay right there." So he goes to a different office to get onto the phone to call the goon squad. That's when a bunch of guards just come and they take a prisoner by force into the hole, basically, into solitary. And so as he was on the phone, he went into this room. I followed him he's like, "Don't open that door." And I opened the door, and then I had flyers in my hand, so I dropped a flyer in front of him. "You are cursed," with the saying that you're cursed if you come against me, the Messiah. And he's like, pretty soon the guards, all the guards came after me. Like they all, surrounded me, and I'm just standing there. I'm holding up these flyers. If you hurt me, you are cursed. If you hurt me, if anyone hurts me, you are cursed. I pronounce cursing upon you if you hurt me. And everybody's like, and then the guy who called them in, he's like, and I saw him do that through the reflection of the window. I'm like, no, dude, I'm not gonna say his name. I'm not crazy. I'm the Messiah, and you're gonna learn that I'm the Messiah. And so normally when they do come and get a prisoner, they'll rough them up a bit, but they didn't touch me. I mean, they just gently put the cuffs on me and calmly walked me to the hole. And then when I got into the hole, you have to change into your garb, your solitary confinement garb, and had some guards started laughing at me, making fun of me, and they're like, ha ha ha. They said something in the line of, "Would you perform a miracle and get yourself out of here if you're really Christ?" Ha ha ha. And I said something like, "Yeah, spit in my face. Tell me to prophesy something." Because like bringing back what they did to Jesus in the day, they mocked him, they spat in his face, and I said, "Who hit you?" Or, "No, tell me who hit you. Who hit me?" And I said something like that, and it made them think, and it's just like, oh wow. And so like once I was in the hole, the next day, that same guard who was making fun of me, he's like, "You're all right, man. You're okay." And so that was one story. These are all federal workers. Yeah, these are guards, federal guards. There's a few other times. That was in Devens. I had spent some more rough times in previous prisons and jails before Devens. Devens is, it's not, it's very low. I mean, there's all handicapped people there, mentally or physically, so it's like there's no gangs or anything. There's not much violence. Sure, there's some there near you. Yeah, I think that they once they realized the way I was acting, the way I was presenting myself with authority, even though I didn't have any authority at that time, it was like they went home and they did their research and they found out who I was, and they're like, they treated me with respect. It was really weird, but that's pretty cool. The prison prior to Devens was Beaumont Medium Facility, medium security prison in Beaumont, Texas, and that is known notoriously as Bloody Beaumont because there's stabbings going there on all the time. Every day there's like a stabbing, basically. that was scary. When I initially got there, they will approach you. The gang leaders will approach you. If you're white, the white gang leader will approach you. If you're black, the black will. And they're like, so I'm white, and the gang leader approaches me. They got like two different white gangs. There's the independents. They call themselves independent, but they're really a gang. And then there's the Aryan Brotherhood, of course. And so like they check every new inmate. They want to know what they're in for. They want to know what their crime was. And if they find out that they're a child molester or a rapist, they will beat the living shit out of you. And so they wanted, obviously when I came, they wanted to know my crime. I'm like, I threatened a federal official. I didn't want to say the president because the president's black, and I didn't want the black people to be mad at me. But later on, I did say I threatened the president. And what they do is they find out what you did. So if you're lying to them initially, they'll just make sure. So you better not lie to them, basically. So you're required to meet with the guard there within the unit to get your records, to find out, to get all your paperwork and to find out your offense and all this stuff. And so I did that. And, I showed them on the paper, see, threats to the president. So they're like, oh, okay. But then, I was starting to tell them, I'm the second coming of Christ. They're like laughing. All right, man, okay. And, they didn't believe me, but what they did initially, they tell everybody, is they're like, you need to sit, okay, this is where you sit. In the common area, we have a specific tables for us, for the whites. There's tables for blacks, there's tables for Mexicans, there's tables for American Indians. You need to sit with us. At lunchtime, you do not sit at the table where the leaders sit, the leaders of the gang sit. You sit behind. You make sure you don't sit with us. And what happened? The first day I went to lunch, by accident, I actually sat with the leaders. I just sat down and was like, they just look at me. I'm like, dude, the guy's next to me. You're not supposed to be sitting here. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. But anyway, I didn't like this gang leader dude. His name is, well, I'm not going to give out names. But, he's a jerk, he's just trying to, obviously I have a problem with people telling me what to do because I have the latent authority to rule the whole world. So it's like, you're telling me what to do, and this is rubbing wrong. I don't like anybody telling me what to do, basically. And so after a couple days, they were just, they just kept their eye on me, basically, because they knew that I was telling everybody I was the second coming of Christ, and they knew I was an oddball in their eyes. They knew I wouldn't conform to them, to their standards or to their rules. And so then I started hanging out. I met this black guy there, and we started talking about conspiracies and religion and stuff, and we kind of clicked. We had good conversations and stuff like that. But this one black dude, he's kind of notorious for being a predator. So this black dude might have had double motives in talking with me, because he might have wanted to sexually harass me, assault me or something like that, or have his friends gang up on me or something like that. But the guy was nice. I mean, I felt like there was a connection there, not a sexual connection, just like a spiritual connection with this guy. So I would continue talking to him, and I just was being very open and honest with him, telling him who I was, telling him my plan for humanity, telling him I'm going to be exalted soon. And so we developed a friendship, nothing sexual. And he would invite me into his cell, and we'd play cards, or we'd talk about religion and stuff like that. We talked about, he was really big about getting a store, getting basically, when you're an inmate, you can use your commissary money and buy items, and then you could sell them to inmates on the street for 2 for 1, basically. So it's like inmates. So I had money, obviously. It's probably using me a little bit like that too, because so we kind of started a store. But back in my cell, I'm with a white guy in my cell who's in this gang, and he's kind of like a narc dude, or kind of like I don't know what you call him, but he started telling the gang leader that I'm hanging out too much with this black dude. You're not supposed to be hanging out with black dudes. You're supposed to be hanging out with us, basically. And so it's like, it got heated. It exacerbated to a point where there was a confrontation involved, where they would come up to me, and they say, "We want to see your commissary money. We hear that you're starting a store with this dude." I'm like, "That's my business. How is that your business?" "Well, it's my money. It's my business." So I was in the black dude cell, and the white gang leader comes in, and he's like, that's when he said that, "We want to see your receipt. We want to see your commissary." What the fuck? So I stood up, and I pointed right in his face. I said, "My business is my business." And that just triggered him. It's like, whoa. It's like, so he's ready to go back out and assemble the army against me, basically. Assemble the white independents to to get me, to jump me, basically. So basically every day at count time, it was 4 o'clock p.m. count time, everybody has to go back to their cell, so the guards could walk past and count everybody. And so they were luring me back to my cell prior to, they knew everyone had to go back to the cell at count time, so it was like at 2:30 something like that, and they sent one of their little scouts to come in and say, hey Steve, can you show me that drawing that you did for me, that you did for so and so? Can you come back to your cell and show me where it is? I want to check it out. And I knew he was trying to lure me back to my cell so they can jump me and stab me. And I'm like, you know where it is. It's on the shelf over there. And so that ploy didn't work. And I'm like, I'm shitting bricks. I'm like, oh shit. And then my black friends in the cell are like, you're dead. You're a dead man. You are a dead man, because you got to go back to your cell for count, and you're dead. There's not, and obviously you're not going to have these black friends that I acquired. I'm not going to have them defend me. I mean, I'm a white guy. I mean, they might be nice to me, but they're not going to risk their lives over me. So it's like, I'm dead. And so I'm like, oh shit, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? And I just started building this adrenaline up. Just started building up. I was just like sitting there. I'm getting mad. I'm getting scared. I'm mad. I'm scared. I'm crying. I'm like, what am I gonna do? And I just like, okay, I decided what I wanted to do. I was gonna get the guards' attention. So I was gonna make a real loud noise, basically. And so did like 20 push-ups just to get my adrenaline going. And then I kicked open my buddy's cell door and made this big boom. Boom! You know, there's like 300 inmates in the common area, and they all turned their head like, what's going on? What did I? And then like 5 seconds later, I come out of the cell. I start yelling at the top of my lungs. I'm roaring like a lion at this point. And I'm just pointing at these white gang leaders. I'm like, you motherfuckers! You messed with the wrong dude. I'm the Messiah, motherfucker. You fucking. I was on the second level, and I had to walk down the causeway, down the stairwell, and then to the guard's office, and I had to make sure that I wasn't stabbed along the way as I was walking. So it's like, as I'm walking, I'm yelling at them at the top of my lungs like a lion. You fuckers! You mess with her! And so, obviously, when I wanted to get the guard's attention, which it did work. So the guard came out. I was walking down the causeway really fast, pointing at them, walking down the stairs. And when I got to the bottom of the stairs, there they are, the two gang leaders, white gang, they're in my face, but the guard's between us. And so it's like, and I just stared them down. They stared me back down, and the guard escorted me out into protective custody, where it kind of sucked there too, because they had to. That's where they send people who misbehave as well as people who are in protection. So it's like, it's the hole, basically, solitary confinement. So it's like I spent like 3.5 months there in that little hole until I was transferred to Devens. And the reason I was transferred to Devens is because I was telling everybody that I was the Messiah, that I was the second coming of Christ. I was being very resistant in the hole there with the guards and not cooperating and stuff. And one time they jumped me. This guard put his gloved 2 fingers, poked my eyeballs all the way to the back of my eye sockets because I wouldn't cooperate. I wouldn't switch cells. Every 18 days we're supposed to switch cells, and obviously I was just, if you know anything about me and my resistance to people telling me what to do, and because I know I have this authority that one day I will use, it's like I'm not cooperative. I wasn't cooperative, at least back then. And so obviously I got myself into a lot of difficult situations. So, I mean, I would just like count time. I would never stand up, because to me that's being submissive to their authority. So it's like maybe 1% of the time I would stand up, but I would always stay on my bed. It's like, Christopher, get up, count time. I said, fuck you. Sometimes I would say, fuck you. Sometimes they would say, Christopher, get up, countdown. I would just go, is that a command? And they would go, yeah, it's a command. I say, well, do you think it's right to command God, to tell God what to do? They would just walk away. So I would get written up. I would get these incident reports. Like, I probably got like 12 or 14 incident reports for just insolence, not listening to authority, basically. And they threw away a lot of those because they just classified me as insane, which I wasn't. I was just resistant to authority because I knew who I was, basically. So that's why I was transferred to Devens in the first place, because a mental medical decision. So, oh yeah, I told everybody that I was Messiah. But in retrospect, like after I was released from prison in September of 2011, I realized a lot of my actions were very immature. And I actually, back in February of 2012, I was sent back to prison because they said I violated my probation because I refused to take any psychotropic medication that this psychiatrist prescribed to me. And because I was, so, when I was released, I was supposed to meet with a psychologist and a psychiatrist. And so I was meeting with them, the psychologist every other week and the psychiatrist once a month. And I never took any medicine in prison. I refused. Well, initially, the doctor I met with, like, you don't seem like you need any. And it's like, yeah, I don't, thank you. But when I got out, it seems like because I continued on with my messianic beliefs, I was like, no, I'm serious. I'm the Lord. I'm the Messiah. I'm not crazy either. And so I made it a point. It was very much a challenge for me to show them that I wasn't crazy and that I was the Messiah. And so I wouldn't back down. I wouldn't pretend. I wouldn't deny myself. No, I am the Messiah, and I'm not crazy. And that's why I would meet with the prison psychologist. I wanted to meet with her. I wanted to talk with her every week, tell her what I'm thinking. This is my view of the world. This is my view of my psychology, my solipsistic understanding of the world. And she was very understanding, and I would write her letters. I even got them on my website there. And she concluded I was sane. She was like, you're normal. And they have like this percentage scale that they give. I don't know what they call it, but basically, she gave me an 85. Like, 85 is like you're completely normal. There's nothing mentally wrong with you. And she classified herself as having an 89. So it's like, so they never prescribed me any medication in prison. And so when I got out, I started meeting with the psychologist, and she was cool. She was understanding, but she didn't believe I was the Messiah. And so there was a clash there, a clash in ideological understanding. And so a psychiatrist met with her first time. I said, no, I'm not. She wanted to put me on medicine. I'm like, no, I refuse to take a medication. And then she was like, well, we can't force you. I'm like, okay, good, we can't force you. But the next time I met with her, I think it was like a couple months later, she told me that the feds were making her prescribe me a medication. I'm like, but that's not coming from you. It seems like you're being coerced into making this decision. I'm not. I refuse to take any medication. And even my psychologist was sitting in the room there, and she's like, you can refuse, Steve. You don't have to take it. I'm like, okay, well, I refuse. I'm not going to take any medication. I'm not crazy. Taking medication or submitting it to their classifying me as mentally ill, to me, it's like, if I were to do that, I would be admitting that I'm not the Messiah. I would be admitting that there's something wrong with me mentally. And so I refuse it. Even now, I do not take any social security money from the government because I'm not crazy. And so I refuse. I can't do that. That's an admission if I were to do that, that I'm crazy. So I don't do that. And so anyway, she prescribed me this Invega medicine. It's kind of like Risperdal, but and I just wrote on the paper, I refuse to take any psychotropic medication whatsoever. And she's like, okay, well, you're gonna find yourself back in prison. I'm just like, I don't know, because my psychologist told me that I could refuse. I didn't really think that I was going to be violating any terms of probation. And so a couple weeks later, I surprisingly get a phone call in the morning. It's the U.S. Marshals, and they told me to come to the door, and they have a gun pointed at my head. I'm like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And you refused to take your medication. You violated probation. I'm like, what? What are you? And so I was in custody again, so I went and here in Arizona, and they have this place downstate a little bit toward Tempe. And it's all Mexicans, like there's like 1% white and all the rest are, or maybe 1% black and all the rest are Mexican. But anyway, during that time I spent 26 days there, and while I was there I was very calm. Different than my behavior and attitude was like 180 degrees different, because I was just like, you know what? I realized my first stint being in incarceration, I was very rebellious toward authority, because it was true. They were in authority, in a position of authority over me. So it's like, I realized that I grew, I matured, and I'm like, I'm not going to resist them anymore. I'm not going to do what they say. I'm just going to be very mellow, be very calm. I don't have to tell everybody I'm the Messiah. I told a few people, but for the most part, I cooperated. And I spent 26 days there, and while I was sitting in there, this time I had a really good public defender, and he got me out because he found out that in my sentencing guidelines, it never specified that I had to take medication. And so I got out, and my quote-unquote violation of probation was terminated. I didn't violate any probation. And so so to this day I don't take any medication, but looking back in retrospect, I see how I grew from a mature point of view, realizing how authority works. And so it's like everything's a growth process. And while I was in there the second time, I was realizing all the times I rebelled, and really my behavior was very ugly. So I was kind of ashamed of that, and here I am now. All right, let me answer some of these questions. Oh, why did they pull a gun out if the visit was due to medication? Well, because the U.S. Marshals are required to apprehend anybody who violates probation, anybody who has a warrant out for their arrest. And so I didn't know I had a warrant out for my arrest, and they didn't know that I didn't know. So it's like, you know, they initially just have to point a gun at you. And so obviously I came out with my hands up. But that was that. Yeah, when they poked my eyes, it was very painful. I got pepper sprayed twice in jail, in county jail in Mississippi. That was like, Madison County Jail is the worst. Probably next to Cook County Jail is probably the worst jail in the whole country. Just the way they abuse the prisoners there. And I was very resistant then too. Those were the times where I was flipping them off when they say count time, or they shout count time. I was very resistant to them, obviously. So, but initially they backed off because they knew I was high profile because of what I did, and also I think there was a fear of God too, because I would, you know, I'm not satanic, but I would do things to intimidate. You try to do anything to intimidate somebody, basically, at that when you feel like you're getting influenced against your will to do something. And so it's like I would draw these upside down pentagrams and paste them on on my cell. And when the guards came in and said, "Outside, get up!" I would just say, "You make me stand up, I will curse you and you will burn in hell forever." Or I would say something like that. And they backed off. They're just like, they would just walk away. It's just like, so. But I'm not really proud of that. It's just it is what it is. It was a time in my life, and that's where I was. So. So yeah, I don't. I mean, I told you I'm medicated. I don't need them. It would make me gain weight. It would limit it. It would limit my cognitive abilities. It would just. And I would write them letters. I would write the psychologist, and it showed my letters were very, they're very intelligently written letters, showing I'm very lucid in my understanding of things. And they backed off. They're like, okay, we're not going to force you. Peter. You tell him I love Aaron. Aaron. Oh. Anyway. I'll play some music now. I'm kind of tired of talking. How about some